Moving on to the Albert Dobbs Sams Patrons Award. This is a special award. This is not an award we give every year. So we wanted to give it in very special circumstances. So this award goes out to Nancy Lukasiewicz. Nancy is a quiet diamond who has never sought the spotlight. In the 1970s, she and her husband Ronnie were seeking space so they could start an art program with the city of Athens. They were given the Ware Linden House to use, which at the time was an athletic storage facility for Athens Recreation Department. They immediately began work to create an active house museum. Nancy made sure the house was busy with life by holding art exhibits and classes throughout the 1850s house. For 40 years, Nancy gave her sweat and smiles until retiring in 2016. We're thrilled. I know that's a word that we've used tonight, but I want to underline it, highlight it, italicize it, really make sure we emphasize how thrilled we are to celebrate Nancy and the work she's done to define our community. Speaking personally, I know that my first art lessons wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the work that Nancy had done. So the city of Athens gave Nancy $25 to fix up the house and start her art program. She did a lot with that $25. And as a fun fact, when offered to pick out a room for her office, she selected a closet so more space could be used for art. So what an incredible person to celebrate. We really can't wait to spend more time with Nancy. So let's celebrate Nancy. And just as a personal note, I see my good friend Brian Lukasiewicz in that photo. Hello out there to Brian. So we're thrilled to celebrate Nancy and the Lukasiewicz legacy.
So it is my great honor to be able to announce that Nancy Lukasiewicz has received the Albert Dobbs Sams Patrons Award for her outstanding service to Athens Clarke County in the arts world. You know, Nancy and Ronnie beat me to Athens about 4 years. They came in, I think, 1974. I arrived in 1978, but it wasn't long before I got to meet Nancy and Ronnie, and I feel so fortunate that I did get to know Ronnie in his time here, and certainly we miss him very much. But Nancy, our paths don't cross very often, but when they do, it's very meaningful for me, at least. And you've always been so kind and always had the most beautiful smile and so warm and welcoming. And so I can't personally thank you enough for all that you've done with the arts world in Athens. And of course, Athens is indebted to you very much with the work that you've done at the Linden House. So I'm going to bring on, and I'm sorry you couldn't be with us tonight, but I'm going to bring on Marilyn Wolf Regetz. Hey, Marilyn.
Hi, how are you, David?
I'm just great. I always love seeing you too. I've never seen you without a smile, so that's good.
Well, thank you.
So you are a champion for Nancy, of course, and you have known her for a long time and worked with her on many, many things. And so I'm honored to be able to speak with you tonight as well, so that you can talk about Nancy and tell us a little bit about her work and she and Ronnie, and what they were able to do with the arts.
Well, it's ironic that we don't get to see her tonight, because this is typical. She's very deserving of this award, but has always been extremely modest, always let the light shine on everyone else. And so here I am to tell you how wonderful she is. I actually met Nancy. I've known her for 39 years. I met her in 1981 when I had come to grad school at UGA and heard about immediately the Linden House. So there was a fibercraft guild, and I went to its first meeting, and there was Nancy. And I fell in love with the Linden House and Nancy. And best of all, at that meeting, they said, well, everybody bring a snack. And when I discovered that everybody had actually purchased the food rather than baking, I felt at home. But I've been involved in a variety of ways ever since. Have watched the dedication. At that time, Ronnie was there, of course, and They were both terribly dedicated to making the Linden House a wonderful arts center for the whole community. They have always been about the whole community, and they had special goals. They wanted to involve everyone. They began teaching classes. Of course, Ronnie and Nancy had already started the jury show earlier. They brought in some of the most amazing jurors, nationally and internationally known, even before the addition of the new part of the building. These phenomenal people, some of which were people like before into this little tiny house, this wonderful historic home, Audrey Flack, Judy Chicago. There a list of 43 jurors and 40 shows. When she retired, there had been 40 shows who came and made the juried shows so professional, brought in the finest artists in our area. The show grew and grew and grew constantly. And so there has been nothing but hard work done by Ronnie and Nancy, all of the volunteers that love working with them and with her. But we're talking about, what, close to 45 years now since Linden House began. And always, I don't know anyone else who has dedicated their whole life, every aspect of their life, to making an arts center what Linden House is today. Of course, on the preservation side, it was through Nancy and her work. I was on the board in the 90s when we were looking at the new addition to add on. And one of the things that was so important is keeping the Ware Linden House there, bringing it back to its original state. Ronnie Evans was a big part of that, and others that have worked really hard to do that. It's now a beautiful historic museum, and she wanted to make sure that an architectural firm that was good at adding an addition to an old historic home could be hired. And so we got a firm out of Washington, D.C. that did a beautiful job. Then we had the loss in '99, right before the building was opening, the addition was opening, we lost Ronnie. Just to add, Ronnie and my husband, Phil, had become very good friends in the 90s, which adds to Nancy's and my friendship. Both unfortunately passed away, but it's been a constant. We celebrated the 40th anniversary a few years ago when Nancy was retiring, and it became clear as we reviewed so many of the things that were going on, that had gone on in the past, how much had been accomplished. The fact that the Linden House is one of the finest art centers, community art centers in Georgia. It's inspiring.
We are so lucky for Athens to have such another jewel in its crown, and it truly is.
I know.
I mean, we're another wonderful place for us to be able to enjoy. I have a little bit of a story there that my daughter, my youngest daughter, Mary Catherine, who's a photography major, had 3 photos displayed, was juried, and was able to be displayed in the new facility. So, I have a special place in my heart for that as well.
Right.
But, I think it's an interesting little tidbit about, the fact that Athens Clark County, I guess, handed over the Linden House, Ware Linden House, which was really basically a storage building, gave that to Nancy and Ronnie, and what a whopping check of maybe $25, and said, "Here, do it," right?
Exactly.
And if you have any left over, just keep it, right? There you go. Yeah, any of that $25 left over, and it's amazing. It just took them just a spark
Right.
you know, to light the fire that it's become. And well, I mean, we're just so fortunate. And I wish I could see you, Nancy,
I
and
know, I know. I hate that we can't see her.
me too. But
I know.
you know, she's such a charming lady, and such well, the results of her work speak for itself.
Yes.
And she's been very much kept herself behind the scenes, but she's really the one that made it all happen.
Yeah.
And so it's a well-deserved award for her to receive this. And you know, we love her. We love you, Nancy, and we appreciate you so much. And we know you're still there working behind the scenes somehow, one way or another. Just because you officially retired in 2016 doesn't mean doesn't mean you're not doing what you need to do. So, Marilyn, I cannot thank you enough for your time to be with us tonight. Please don't let me cut you off. Share anything else that you might want to share about this.
Well, there are a million things I could talk about. The beginnings are amazing because Ronnie really realized the need we had, because there are a lot of artists in town. Even then, in '74, there was no place to hang art. And with all of his friends, some of whom are still around to talk about it, they renovated that building for the art shows. There were still plenty of other things in the building from leisure services, lots of activity there. But it's been such an exciting thing to be an observer of the development and growth of the Linden House Art Center. The things that have gone on there, when you look back at the events, the people, how many people in the community have worked with the Linden House, how many artists. When I sit there and have registered for the juried show, registered artists coming in to bring their things, I can't get over the phenomenal collection of artists in and around this community. That is awe-inspiring. And the fact that the Linden House is one of the only places when they have a juried show, the juror actually comes. People don't have to send in photographs of their work. They bring in the work. The artist or the juror actually goes through and looks at everything carefully, makes that selection. Everything about it is glorious, and it's just an example of all the wonderful things that have gone on there. Children that are visiting all the time and doing their artwork and loving it.
Yes.
And everybody has an opportunity to participate, whether in a celebration or part of a show or part of a group. I mean, so many organizations meet there, arts-related organizations meet there. Yes. There are events going on all year. It's just a phenomenal place.
It is a phenomenal place. And so we're getting some public comments here. And I see one from Alex Sams that says, I worked with Marilyn on the Public Art Task Force for Mayor Davidson. Marilyn knows so much about art in Athens, and that is so true. Marilyn, you and I have shared committees together about the arts as well. And so you are also an invaluable resource for Athens. And I'm especially glad that you were able to be on here tonight.
Well, thank you.
For us to celebrate Nancy and her wonderful life in the world of art.